All right, let's start in our comfortable seats. Maybe prop yourself up with a blanket just to bring your seat up off the mat a couple inches. This makes things a little more comfortable if you like. Draw the shoulders back and down. Open the chest just a little. And then soften everything, maintaining our long spine. Allowing the muscles of the face to soften and allowing the shoulders to soften a little bit more. See if we're holding any tension into the legs. Let's try to feel a little opposition here. So we're feeling that support from underneath us, right under our sacrum, to our sit bones. And then we're feeling that lengthening, that little bit of lengthening all the way through the crown of our head. So think about it like a line coming from the top of the head all the way to our connection with the mat. See if we can lengthen that line just a little bit more. A few more breaths like this, nice and calm. We're going to talk today a little bit about becoming unstuck. If we are feeling stuck, needing some inspiration, needing to create some passion, how we can kickstart things a little bit for ourselves. If there's something else you want to focus on as well, lock it in your mind right now. Maybe repeat it a few times. Word or phrase that is meaningful to you for our practice tonight. Two more deep, gentle breaths. Nice. Let's move the shoulders a little bit. Maybe move the head and the neck. Some circles here, whatever feels good. You can see where our flexibility is at today. We're not going to be doing a lot of warm-up. Just noticing where we might have tightness, maybe tipping forward and back. And a gentle twist. Let's take one hand to the opposite knee, put the other hand close behind and lower back over that shoulder. Just a little twist. Exhale, draw back towards center. Inhale from the other side. Spine is nice and long here. Exhale back to center. Let's let the head and the shoulders droop forward a little bit. The back can be rounded. Not coming down too far if that's creating pain. Still holding with a little muscle here. And big deep breath in, draw the shoulders back, look up a little bit. Expand the chest. And inhale back, or exhale back to center. Nice. All right, we're going to come to our first pose, which is Sphinx. So we're going to come to hands and knees first. Take our blanket off to the side for a bit. We're going to come to lie all the way down onto our belly. And have our elbows underneath us here. So very similar to our vinyasa class, we're going to let our hips come down to the mat. We're We're going to open our heart a little bit here. The only major difference is that I'm really going to let my shoulders relax in this pose. So I want to draw the upper body open, just gently. Keep the shoulder blades relaxed and back. Any hand position that's comfortable for us. We're just going to spend about 2 minutes here. We're going to come back to this pose a couple times. So spend a couple minutes here in our Sphinx, continuing to breathe.
So if you're letting your shoulders relax, are you using a lot of stomach muscle to hold you up? Or just?
It depends. I mean, everybody's physiology is different, right? So if you need to hold a little bit, you know, otherwise you're feeling that you're coming forward too far, that's okay, you know, to hold. Or maybe change the angle of your elbows. Put them forward a little bit if you need. If this is a little too much, so even being up here like this, if that's stressing your neck, we can pile our hands and lay down our forehead. So we're not going to get as much stretch into the chest and shoulders here, but this is a much better alternative. Or we can put a block under our forehead. That's another option. First phase here, as we like to say, is making friends with the pose. Understanding how it fits our body, making adjustments we need. And then the second part being staying for a while, holding here, continuing to breathe. Noticing any sensations that are bubbling up. If there's any warning signs like feeling pain, obviously we want to back off. And as we get deeper into our pose, as we are now, we've been here for about almost 2 minutes. We can work on deepening a little bit if we need more sensation, or we can make an adjustment and back off. I'll give some ideas for different positions or options as we go along. A couple more breaths here. Very nice. Let's move slow. We're going to take our hands underneath our shoulders and push ourselves up to hands and knees, taking our time. We can move back and forth, move the hips side to side, maybe do some cat-cow movements here. So this is our digestive phase. We just stayed in a pose for a couple minutes. This allows the body to recover. Take your time, keep moving slowly. All right, when ready, we're going to move on to our second pose, which is child's. So we can keep our knees about even, so right underneath our hips, or we can widen them out a little bit. We want a little more room. And we're going to sit back on our heels. Again, option like we had before of having the hands stacked under the forehead, if you like. Or arms can be down at our sides, palm up. Or arms can be extended forward in an extended pose. It's going to give us a little more into the shoulders and into the chest. This one is not using any muscle at all, really, so we're just allowing for some release. Focus on the breath. On our topic of becoming unstuck and needing that inspiration, the first stage is to identify what issue we may have that we're stuck on. And maybe readily apparent to us, if we're trying to write a book, for instance, and we can't, we have writer's block, we can't write anymore for some reason. Or if we're halfway through a project, we haven't finished it. Could be really anything. Could be a fitness goal. So thinking and identifying what that problem may be for us, something that's important to us. Don't worry so much about if it's important to others, but if it's important to us, thinking about what that problem is and the details of that problem. And once that problem is identified, we can dig a little deeper and see what might be causing us to be stuck. Is this an emotional thing that we have to process? Is it causing us stress? And that stress is causing us to have avoidance? Is it because we are worried about some sort of outcome? Or perhaps we are feeling a lot of pressure and we're burnt out. So realizing what those issues are is very important. And then deciding what action we're going to take. And maybe this project isn't for us, maybe this fitness goal isn't for us, or maybe whatever we're trying to accomplish right now, maybe that's not the best path. So that's okay too. Realizing that is also important. And then deciding on what we're going to do to move forward if we are going to continue to pursue this effort. Let's think about these things for a few more minutes. We've got another minute or so in this pose. Can we relax or release to allow us to get a little deeper? What level of stretch or stress are we feeling in this pose? Is it too much? We need to back off. Really keying in on our body's signals that it's telling us. Oh, 3 more breaths here. On our third exhale, let's start to move a little bit. We'll come back to our tabletop. Take your time. Again, moving back and forth, taking some cat-cow if you need it. Maybe shifting to a kneeling plank, moving the hands forward a little more, and opening up the hips. On an exhale, shifting forward, and we're going to come down again for our Sphinx pose. I do want to give an option if you want to go a little deeper for this one for seal pose, and that requires some more muscle, a little bit more concentration, but we're not going to be here for super long. So seal is with the hands down and the elbows are up. So this allows a lot more back extension. It really is pushing into the shoulder blades as well, drawing them together. So just using only enough muscle to hold us up if we're in this pose. And we can always switch and transition between a couple or between seal and Sphinx. trying to do that as little as possible. See how that additional extension feels in the lower back. That's causing any stress there. Do we need to relax a little bit? Maybe we need to walk the hands forward and reduce the angle. Really letting the hips drop down. In this pose, we're really tapping into those energetic centers in the body, the second chakra that deals with inspiration, creativity, change, passion. It's very important if we are considering that we're stuck on something or we do need that inspiration to push us a little. Almost done with this pose. Re-examine if you need to. If that holding is causing me stress. Three more breaths here. For exhale, releasing down to the mat. Maybe stretch forward with the arms. That feels good. And then taking our time coming back to our tabletop once more. Moving, kind of feeling that self-expression here to find the movement pose that feels good for us. All right, our next pose is going to be rabbit with an option for coming back to child's pose. We may want to have a blanket down for our forehead, or for the top of our head, I should say. This is very similar to child's pose, and we can move in a way that move our knees together or a little bit apart. That either way is fine. But we're going to come down with our forehead, and our hips are going to lift a little bit, so our toes can be curled under, or the feet can be flat, either way. And then with our hands, we're going to reach back for our heels and allow a very gentle pull, bringing our shoulders down. So ideally, we're going to be close to the crown of our head on that blanket or support. And our neck is going to be fairly neutral. We don't want to be putting a lot of stress on our neck. It's probably the biggest caveat of this pose. If this isn't working for us, I mean, feel free to try it out. But if this isn't working and this is not a comfortable position for us to be in, then we can always come to child's or another comfortable pose. Good. Yes, make this work for you. This is also called snail pose in yoga. We're only going to be here in this one for about 2 minutes, so it's not super long. Some thoughts about this chakra work. Just as this chakra is about moving with grace and ease through life, it is also about emotional flow, for our ability to let inner storms arise, be seen, and move through us. When we're flooded with a riptide of feelings, we can allow them to take us for a ride. We can hopscotch over them, bury them deep, or disengage and deny them. These actions and reactions help make our feelings a permanent home in our body. Alternatively, we can acknowledge them, feel them, and accept them for what they are. Take a moment to ask, what are you holding on to? Or what are you holding back from? When we give our psychological rivers tender attention in this way, they're set free back out into the flow. 2 more breaths here. On our exhale, walk the hands forward. We can remove that blanket. Take the cat-cow or any other movements here in tabletop for a moment. And then we will come back down to Sphinx. This is just going to be for restoration. Another option we can do for Sphinx, so we're not holding so much, is using our blanket, maybe folded to a small size, and then having that under our chest. Provides a little bit of support. Still allowing the front body to open. Feel that gentle extension through the back, all the way through the lower back. Hips are relaxed. Make sure your neck and your shoulders are relaxed as well. Never head down. That feels good, or on a block. We'll spend about 7 or 8 breaths right here. Let's exhale here. Let's take our blanket out. We've got that underneath us. And we're going to take a moment here for a couple of movements. We're going to do half bow. So I'm going to have my left hand down on the mat, like parallel to the top here. And I'm going to turn and look over my right shoulder. I'm going to bend my knee, grab on to my foot if it's accessible, and just very gently draw it toward my seat. Once we've got that, making sure that the neck is nice and relaxed. So we don't have to crank it back to look down.
Should her body be facing down or sideways? This is sideways.
Whatever is comfortable. Yeah, whatever is comfortable. Yeah, so if holding here is too much pressure on the shoulder, down, it's okay. Exhale, release that leg. We'll go to the other side. Let's take the forearm down in front of us. Bend the left knee, grab onto that foot. Just relax it down. Yeah, we could be looking down or to the side. I don't really recommend looking back at your foot. Two more breaths. And exhale, release. Nice work. All right, let's come up slowly. We're going to transition to lying on our back so we can take our legs around. Come seated. Scooch forward a little bit. Lie on our back. Let's bring our knees into our chest. We'll rock side to side. Our next pose is going to be straddle, also known as happy baby in the vinyasa version. So you have a couple options here. I recommend reaching in between the knees, grabbing onto the outsides of the feet or the lower leg, wherever is accessible, and then drawing your knees towards your armpits and letting the legs relax open a little bit, feeling that into the inner thigh. Now, if this is uncomfortable for us to hold for a little bit, perhaps half straddle. So letting one foot relax down on the mat and then grabbing onto the other leg. Make this a little easier. We can just grab underneath the knee and pull it toward us. That's okay too. So whatever level of this pose you prefer, based on flexibility, based on the feeling you want to create. Let's move toward that. And then start to settle into the pose and breathe. Some more information about our second chakra practice. Some affirmations that we can say. I have healthy boundaries. I have healthy boundaries. I love and enjoy my body without judgment. I love and enjoy my body without judgment. I move with ease and am able to go with the flow. I move with ease and am able to go with the flow. About 1 more minute in this pose, make any adjustments you need. Mild to medium sensation, remember. As I mentioned, we're looking for sensation in the inner thigh, down through the leg, to the glutes and the hips. Working on cultivating that non-defensive attitude toward sensation. So we have sensation coming in. Perhaps our body is telling us that it doesn't want to be in this pose for so long. Finding that little bit of comfort in discomfort. Essentially. 2 more breaths. Exhale, release the legs. Let's bring our feet onto the mat and keep our knees bent. Constructive rest. Let's bring our arms up overhead, open the chest a little bit. And then exhale, drop them down to the sides. And then if we like, for our counter pose, we can move through a little bridge, flowing bridge pose, pressing into the feet and the hands, and lifting up the sacrum just a little bit, opening the hips, opening the front body, and then moving down. Holding at the top as long as we like. Taking a few more movements, seeing how the hips feel. And then exhale, drop it down. Let's take the knees side to side. Give that little massage to the lower back. On an exhale, we're going to draw the knees into the chest once more. A couple more side-to-side movements if we like here. And our next pose is going to be a reclined twist. So when we're ready, let our knees fall over one direction. We can have our hand on top of our knee to help keep it in place. The other hand behind us, maybe we stretch the arm out. And then perhaps look the other direction as well. Bringing that stretch through, or that twist, I should say, through the neck. Make this comfortable for yourself. If we do need something like a block underneath our knees, we can use that. Perfect. Yeah. Feels good for the body. Let's listen to some questions for ourselves in the second chakra while we're here. What aspect of your life would you like to permit yourself to feel good about? What would I like to create, do, or be today? How would I like to feel today? Which areas of my life do I need to harness? And which do I need to contain? About 1 more minute, keep breathing. Feel the energy in our breath cycling through our body. On an exhale, let's come back towards center, remove any blocks we had. Using. Then again, like before, take the knees side to side. Continuing to breathe. Focus a little bit on what sensations this practice is bringing up. We're having difficulty with our poses or feeling nice and calm, or if we're having some other sort of emotional release, which does happen. When we're ready, let's bring our feet close together. Fold onto our knees, draw them into our chest once more, and then we'll exhale and drop the knees to the other side. And then our option for reaching out, the opposite hand, maybe look over that opposite shoulder as well. And then our option for blocks or whatever we need here to support our legs. When we work these asymmetrical poses, we do one side and the other side, we do want to think about creating similar sensation in both halves. If that means that we need different support or we need to take a different position on the other side, we can do that. One more minute here. Keep breathing. Let's exhale, release, and allow the legs to come back to center. Take some movement side to side again. Take your time, a few more movements. Our digestion pose here is going to be butterfly, reclined butterfly. So we're going to bring our feet close together and let our knees fall out to the sides. If that's comfortable, we can let them kind of hang, or if our knees can reach all the way to the floor, great. We can provide a little weight with our hands on top of our legs if we need to allow our knees to come down a little more, or we can put blocks underneath on either side. And then another option is to take the hands up overhead, clasp them, and let the elbows fall to the side as well. So we're kind of in a figure eight pose. Find what's comfortable here. Three more breaths in this pose. We're going to create some movement in this pose if it feels good for us. So we're going to lift the knees up and down gently. Not trying to bounce too much, just creating a little bit of movement up and down with the butterfly flap its wings. Stimulating the areas of the second chakra. This is a very good pose for that creative and creating that creative and adventurous feeling. More times. And release. Nice job. Let's turn to our side. And we'll come up. Take our legs behind us. We're going to finish up with a couple of more challenging poses in our dragon series. We're going to come up to kneeling. We can have something underneath our knees because this is going to be essentially a low lunge pose. So we can be kneeling on our blanket. And then take one leg forward. Let that back foot come flat to the mat. And we can sit tall here and let this work into our hip. We do have an option if we want to use our blocks or just bring our hands down onto the mat on either side of that front foot, using any height that we want to for our blocks. Further option is to let the head dangle here. So we're working into the shoulders, neck, those areas, releasing into the fascia of those joints. Find what works for you here. Any of those options or combinations I mentioned that works for you. As we're talking about becoming unstuck and getting that inspiration, our hip joint is where a lot of stress is carried generally. So as we're deeply stretching this area, maybe feeling some feelings bubble up of anxiety, worry, working on breathing through these sensations as they come to us, if that's the case. And as we make friends with the pose, we can think about releasing our hips down a little bit more, letting gravity do the work for us. Just using enough muscle with the hands down on the mat or blocks, or the hands on the knee to hold us upright. Trying to release a little bit more muscle so the hips can open, but not creating a dangerous amount of stress there. Some of us may be hyper flexible, and if that's the case, we want to really make sure that we don't stress the joints too much. We're letting the hips come really far down. About 30 more seconds, keep breathing. Slowly shift back with the hips. Take that left leg and bring it down, scoot back to kneeling. And we can take a little movement here. The other side is a counter pose, so we don't need to do too much. Then when we're ready, take the right leg forward. Then take any options you like, just like before. We're setting up, sitting tall, lifting the torso, hands down. Maybe we let the head and neck release like before. Maybe we change it up this time. If we're in that phase of mild to medium sensation and our body is still feeling uncomfortable, or we're having things bubble up, just letting it pass over and through us. Working on that non-defensive stance. Breathing and let it pass. Thirty more seconds. Keep breathing. As always, with any pose or any practice, if you're not feeling comfortable in the pose, feel free to come out and do something else. It's a class that should be led by you, just using me as a guide. Let's slowly release. Come back to the tabletop. Take a movement or two here. We can remove our blocks if you like. We have them out. We've got one more short pose before our Shavasana. So we're gonna come back down onto our heels, spin the lower legs around and come to seated. And we can again have our blanket underneath our seat if we like. From here in our Sukhasana, easy seated pose, we do have an option to take our hands back, open the chest a little bit, lift the chin. And if we need a little support, we can have our blocks. Just allow the front body to open. Relax the neck and shoulders. This is a pose of accepting energy, allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, open. Two more breaths. On exhale, let's shift forward. We're going to take our hands down in front of us and come to a seated forward fold, keeping the hips grounded, or sorry, the sit bones grounded onto our mat or blanket, allowing the upper body to round as we reach our extension. And then let the head drop down if that feels okay. We can use blocks under our forehead. That helps. So our neck is not feeling stressed. Three more breaths. exhale, walk the hands back up, come back to our seated. We can stay seated for our final pose, or we can come to Shavasana. I generally like Shavasana because it encourages us to completely relax. So any lying pose that works for us, all the way down to corpse posture, or constructed rest with our feet flat. Perhaps use a bolster or blanket under the knees. This pose symbolizes the completion of our journey of today's yoga practice. Allowing all of the work and the lessons we've learned today about our body, about what we need, and the internal work that we've done, allow that to settle in. Relax the muscles of the face, relax the jaw. Working our way through the body, finding any remaining tension. Drawing our breath to that area. Inhale and exhale, relaxing. More slow, deep breaths. Toward equal ratio, breathing in for the same amount of time that we're breathing out. Exhale, starting to move a little bit. Perhaps wiggling the fingers, toes, some sensation back. And when we're ready, let's draw our knees to our chest and turn to our side. Take your time. Let's come up to seated. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Hope you have a great rest of your evening. Do get some rest and hydrate. We'll see you next time. Namaste.
Namaste.